From Afghanistan to Ukraine and beyond, the scale and nature of humanitarian crises can make us feel overwhelmed and hopeless. Add in a global pandemic, and things can seem all the more challenging. At the Women's Refugee Commission, however, we do see reason for hope. That pathway to hope is straightforward. Listen to the people you serve, provide them with the resources they need, and advocate for them in the places where their voices are not found, places that too often make decisions for them, not with them.
I am proud of what we, our partners, and displaced women and youth have achieved. From decades of fieldwork, we know that nothing is impossible when you embrace the strength of women and girls and other marginalized communities. That is why we are here today.
It is my privilege to participate in this conversation. I have had the pleasure of getting to know both Guerline, Jozef, and Pari Ibrahim a bit, and am looking forward to having you get to know them better as well.
The Islamic State was coming to kill the Yezidi men, to kidnap the women and children. Women and girls were sold as sex slaves in the 21st century. Can you imagine girls as young as 8 years old being raped constantly, so many times per day? I couldn't believe it. And so I started the Free Yezidi Foundation. I was hoping that I had a voice for my people that were voiceless.
They mentioned before the Welcome with Dignity campaign. That is a coalition of many different organizations, and Haitian Bridge Alliance is one of the co-anchors of the Women with Dignity Welcome with Dignity campaign. And through that work, we are able to center the lives of migrants at the US-Mexico border, making sure that impacted people's voices are reflected in policies that are being created in Washington, D.C. Understanding if we are not part of the community, if I don't understand that the people don't have food, they don't have shelter, I cannot then work in order to make sure that they are okay. What happens is we create those policies and bills that do not reflect the needs and therefore do not take care of the root causes of what creates those problems in the first place. So we are happy to partner with WRC and many, many organizations.
And I think that is a big problem that we see in the humanitarian aid, that we feel pity for those that have less. But instead, we should turn that around and encourage people. What we do as a civil society organization led by women, and instead of pitying them, creating something that's better, make them stronger, so that they can be voices of courage themselves. There's so many women that have nothing, and one thing you can do when they're displaced, you can empower them, so that wherever they go, they will take that empowerment with them and make change wherever they go.
As Pari mentioned, it is essential that we don't see people who are impacted as victims, as survivors, but as victors. People who are able to move past the horrible things they have endured, to be able to step forward and not only survive, but to thrive. And when they must flee home, we must welcome them with dignity.
You get so much out of supporting women. Each one of you here today can do so much difference. You have so much power. You have a voice. You have all of you strong together. And women in our community, they're not strong. They're not powerful because we are not giving them the opportunities to be who they are. But once we do, once we stand behind them and empower them, then they change and they flourish. They become so beautiful in their strength. Same with WRC, empowering local women to make change. Exactly what we're doing also. And that's why I say, today, if you help one woman, tomorrow they will help two. And those two will help the next four. And that is the change and the ripple effect that you make today. Of course we will recover, because over centuries of attacks and marginalization of my community, we are still surviving.
So as we continue this work, we need each and every one of you to join your hands together with ours, to make sure we continue to uplift the voices that are normally unheard, to make sure we center the impacted communities, to make sure we use our pocketbooks to support people on the ground, because right now, if not us, then who?
I also want to thank the Women's Refugee Commission for honoring Baker Botts, as well as for its groundbreaking work to protect and empower refugee women and youth. I'm also particularly encouraged by the inclusivity of WRC's work insofar as it concerns sexual orientation and gender identity. A significant portion of Baker Botts' refugee work is focused on LGBTQ communities. And as a trans lawyer myself, representing trans women and other gender nonconforming refugees has become an indispensable part of my practice.
The work of the Women's Refugee Commission is critically important as it partners with leaders all over the world to bring about lasting change and impact. At a time when we're seeing enormous backsliding, it's important for us to stand together and to move a positive agenda forward. And so my role as co-chair, one of my roles, is to ask you to join us in many ways, to ask you to join us in your voice, your advocacy, your thoughts, leadership, but also with your giving.